Roblox Naruto games have been a staple in the Roblox anime community. From games created nearly 2 decades ago to present day, Naruto games still remain relevant. That being said guys, today we'll be playing Roblox Naruto games from each year. We'll first start off from where it all began in 2008, Land of the Ninja by Snake World. Now this game was literally the first of its kind on the platform, and I mean it really shows. First off, the game obviously doesn't work, and the reason for this is because this game is nearly 20 years old, which is crazy, right? So this game was created when I wasn't even born, right? Anyways, that aside, what's really nice is that the developer actually made this game open source. So the first thing I did was to actually go on Roblox Studio and kind of understand what was going on, and more importantly to give me fly scripts, right? Now anyways, after we loaded in on Roblox Studio, the first things I noticed was that in our hotbar we had a lot of things like jump, run, and then I believe we also had something to do with chakra, right? So none of that stuff worked, but it was still interesting how like you had to click a button for jump instead of spacebar. Now anyways, let's actually talk about the game design, right? Now, which I can't lie, especially for the world building, everything is like a literal rectangle. Like everything is made from the default Roblox tools that you had back then, rectangles, squares, and it's just completely ridiculous. Now we have custom meshes and whatever. But anyways, one thing I did find pretty funny though was that this game, if you take a look at one of the Hokage signs, it had a username of somebody, and this was made in 2008, so this guy probably has a whole family now. Anyways, that being said, that's pretty much the first game, Land of the Ninja, a simple game that honestly no longer works anymore, unfortunately, right? And I couldn't find any footage either because this game was literally made in 2005, so there is no footage. So that being said guys, let's move on to the next game. Alright guys, for 2011 we have Naruto Online Adventure. Now as a disclaimer, we can't actually play this game because it was made in 2011 and the studio who made it, which is Rel, obviously closed it, right? But anyways, if you've been on Roblox for a while, you know Rel is one of the more influential studios on Roblox. For example, compared to the last game, which to be fair was made in 2011, this game looks very different. Like just take a look at the GUI, and even though this might look kind of basic, like this is something Blox Fruits really uses even to this day. So that's just insane, right? Also, this game had actual buildings and actual texture instead of like just rectangles everywhere. But anyways, I just thought it'd be interesting to show how like a more innovative studio had an approach to these Roblox games. But again, unfortunately we couldn't play it, and also I didn't see any moves, so I can't really judge the VFX, right? I mean, again, I wouldn't be surprised if it was on par with whatever the standard is. Anyways guys, that being said, let's move on to 2012, which was an interesting year to say the least. Alright, 2012 we have Naruto Revival. Now hopefully I said that name correctly, but pretty much this game was a Naruto game made by VTEX Games, and if you guys don't know, these guys are also another notable studio even to this day because they've made games like Arcane Odyssey and a couple others that I can't remember. But back to the game that we're talking about, Naruto Revival. This game is like Naruto Online Adventure, but it did start pushing the Roblox engine. For example, one thing I saw that was pretty interesting was a custom Susanoo model, and in 2012 that's just crazy, right? Other than that, for the overall map design, I thought it was painfully minimalistic, even worse than the game made in 2011 by Rel. That game had like a bunch of things spread out in like a large area. This was like even worse, where there were like even fewer buildings, right? Anyways, while we're at it, I'll also throw up a 12-year-old fight between the Senju and Uchiha clan, which looks probably much more different now in any other games, and not a lot happens honestly in this game. I'm not gonna lie, it's just them bouncing around. The combat was incredibly stiff. I mean, I don't know what you expect from a 2012 Roblox game, right? And that's literally it. VFX was simple explosions like the ones we saw in Elemental Battlegrounds, but that's about it. That being said, let's move on to 2013 with Naruto Way of the Ninja, which is another game that we can actually finally play. Now, upon loading this game, I'm assuming the developer made everything free because, I mean, I was pretty much allowed to choose anything in the game, right? So that being said, the first thing I did was invite one of my friends to play in 1v1. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what he went with, but I went with like, I believe the Uchiha clan and Lightning, and I'm not gonna lie guys, nothing literally worked. I'm gonna be honest, right? Nothing literally worked. But before we complain more about the PvP, I want to talk about the overall game design, because for 2013, I feel like compared to the last game, it was actually much better. I mean, if we take a look at the villages, we still have like good old classic Roblox dialogue, but it is much more filled, right? Other than that, I mean, we also had actual tree meshes, so that's a big plus one. I mean, that was hard to come by. The moves of course didn't work because this game is 12 years old, but I mean, at least the sword works, so we did have like this convenient sword fight that I lost for some reason. Anyways, let's move on to 2014. Alright, 2014, Naruto Land of the Shinobi. Now to be fair, this game was no joke a direct copy of the previous one, unless I messed up something, right? However, this game did have a few more tweaks, right? But I'm not joking, literally everything in this game was copied, from like the moves to the interface. Everything was one-on-one with like a few different colors and some design tweaks, right? But in my opinion, even though this game was copied, this is one of the few games that like actually did a copy properly, because the tweaks that they added were much better, right? Now again, as a disclaimer, of course this game did not work at all, right? Or maybe there were some things that were intentional, like for example, when you would jump, it would be like completely infinite, right? But regardless, I mean, I don't have much to say about this game, right? So again, like the previous game, I hopped on PvP with my friends, and I'm not gonna lie guys, it was interesting to say the least. Like I have no idea how people played this in 2015. I mean, sure, it was 10 years ago, but this PvP was so awful awful, like genuinely, right? I just kept running around and like I kept placing these bricks of fire that like my friend would step on and it would do damage. And then I popped Sharingan, which low-key did nothing, so I just killed him with my sword, and I have no idea what to explain what I was playing, because this game, it's not even PvP. I'm just placing stuff. It's like I'm playing Fortnite except my builds do damage, right? So I'm not gonna lie, then I decided, guys, I'm gonna make a new category of combat called Brain Dead Combat, and this game's PvP is going in that category. So in terms of Brain Dead Combat, I give it a 10 because all I did was spin around in circles and use my sword. TLDR, I'm not gonna lie, guys, it a very nice map and funny combat to mess around with every now and then. Anyways, guys, next game. Alright, 10 years ago we got Shinobi Life 1. Not to be confused with Shinobi Life 2, the game that we've all played, right? But this game, regardless, did have a lot of good features for its time. Now, this game, I'm not gonna lie, guys, it was a big upgrade from the previous game we played, primarily in the actual moves that were. Like, one thing I saw was that Chidori and all the lighting VFX was really nice, right? Other than that, even compared to the last game, this game had a lot of empty world building. I mean, just take a look at this. The game's moves are pretty good for 2015, but back then it was really solid. Also, additionally, I just want to point out that like nothing in this game worked at all. I mean, it makes sense, it's also a decade old. Other than that, the UI is okay. There's nothing special about this game in my opinion, but some things I did find cool were like the bosses spawning at certain times, because this, among many other things, made Shinobi Life 2 super popular. So it's pretty cool to see where these things first originated from, right? I also tried using other moves and weapons, but literally nothing worked in the game, sadly, so I couldn't do anything. Other than that, I don't have a lot of thoughts. Even though the game was simple and honestly mediocre, it did have revolutionary features like the boss drops, right? Regardless, I can't disrespect this game because this was the foundation of Shinobi Life 1 that, you know, definitely helped Shindo Life, and it hopefully will help Seas. So that being said, let's move on to 2016. Alright, 2016, guys, we got Naruto Final Bond. Now, before I get into this game more, unfortunately, we can't play it, but regardless, I don't care what anyone says, this game was one of the more innovative ones, and let me explain why. First off, this was the first game where I saw an actual, like, interactive boss fight, and in this case, we got to see Madara Uchiha himself, and first of all, his model looks really nice in my opinion, but what was cooler was that he also fought back, because in most games, they wouldn't, like, actually fight back, they would just stand still, right? And to be fair, he didn't do anything, and you could respawn in the middle of the boss fight, but it was interesting to see how mob AI changed, especially from 10 years ago, because if we compare something like Madara Uchiha from 2016 to a Deepoken mob, it obviously seems different, right? Other than that, this game was more so PvP focused from what I'm aware, because pretty much it didn't seem as open world judging from the small clips that we saw, because I'm not gonna lie, guys, every single clip was like 10 FPS, but other than that, the progression wasn't bad itself, because I was watching a couple of videos on it, and more so, this game had a lot of traveling and talking to people instead of bandit beating, right? So that was pretty dope. Anyways, that's about Naruto Final Bond. Pretty cool game, so let's move on to the next one. Alright, for 2017, we got Naruto Ninja Blocks made by Higoshi. Now, I know this developer still actually makes games to this day and is working on a Demon Slayer game, so be sure to watch out for that. I tried playing this game, and I can't lie, more than half of this stuff was broken, so we had to find some footage online. I feel like the world building for this game was pretty average. I mean, the moves were also okay and not anything special. The PvP was, I can't lie, in this game, like awfully slow, like slow, like concerningly slow. Now, anyways, that being said, I don't even want to talk more about this game, so let's just move on to the next one. Alright, for 2018, also kind of a 2017 game, we have Beyond Beta, and yes, that is the name, by the way, Beyond Beta. This game was an open world Naruto RPG, and honestly, I feel like it was executed very well. Anyways, I hopped in, and the first thing I noticed was how nice the GUI looked for 2018. The game's character creation was honestly amazing for its time. It reminds me a bit of, I believe, what's that game called, Arcane Odyssey, so that's pretty nice. Anyways, that aside, what was also fun was the combat, because from the last game, you know, we didn't get to actually play the last game, so we won't know how slow it was, but for this game, it was more of a hands-on approach, and I can't lie, the game's PvP was really unique, because when you M1 somebody, it would put them in like a combo, like it would stun lock them, so this is considered a hit stun combat if I'm not wrong, and it would show you a combo that you could do to do the max damage, and then it was like a very fixed way of doing combat, so it just felt like a watered down version of Shindo Life. That being said, let's move on to 2020, and yes, by the way, I did skip a year, mainly because I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't interested in talking over some like bullshit game, like some corny 2019 RPG that's just forgotten, so I just jumped into what got me into all of this, like YouTube, Roblox anime games, which is Shindo Life, Shinobi Life 2, whatever you want to call it. Alright, Shinobi Life, Shindo Life, 2020, I can't lie, was the most influential year for Roblox anime games due to this game releasing. I'm pretty sure everyone watching this video has definitely played this game, and sure, it was 5 years ago, but this game was like genuinely generational. So this game is insane. The amount of work Rel put into this game was absurd. Me personally, I grinded this game day in and day out, and even to this day, I have a channel in my personal Discord server that has a bunch of Shindo Life private server codes, because when I was 13, of course, no one was buying me Robux, so I just found them online to get scrolls and stuff, right? Anyways, I think what made this game really good, before we actually get into the game, was a consistency in its updates. I mean, this game literally has everything, and I mean everything from Naruto, and it has things even outside from Naruto, like I'm pretty sure they have Spider-Man. Anyways, enough glaze. I hopped back on this game after like 4 years years because I can't lie, I haven't played it. The only game I have played on Roblox was Deepwoken. The first thing I did was to fight somebody, and listen man, I know I'm out of my prime, and that boy put me in a meat combo. Now to be fair, I might have been ass at the combat because you know it is hit stun and I'm used to Deepwoken combat, but other than that, I mean it was pretty cool checking out a game that you know I have like more than 500 hours of playtime on and seeing how it changed. And that's when I realized that I can't lie, like Shinobi Life or Shindo Life, sorry, whatever, has not changed at all. Like Shindo Life literally reminded me of the time I played it back in 2020 or so, right, where the game literally is the exact same. The music, the environment, everything was the same. Like the village has not changed in 5 years. So pretty fun game. I can't lie, I don't want to review it because you know the game, you guys have seen it, you know, you beat bandits, you level up, use your KG, and you have a bunch of fun, and that's the game. So there we go guys, that's Shindo Life. I really loved it, and let's move on to the next one, which is kind of underwhelming honestly. All right, 2021. I had an assortment of games which I could choose from this time period, but I decided to put a tower defense game for variety, so I just decided that I would show this game. Maybe I'm used to something like Anime Vanguards where everything is so saturated and the VFX is like done so well, but regardless, I hopped in and the first thing I noticed was that this game was literally so empty. Sure, it was made in 2021 and my expectations were high for Anime Vanguards, but this was like a barren wasteland, dude. Anyways, that being said, I played story mode for a little bit, and I'm not gonna lie, the models didn't load for the game, so it was really weird. This game had all your basic tower defense things, you know, the rare troops, the RNG, the Robux that you could spend, the VIP game pass, the story mode, the infinite mode, all that stuff, right? So overall, that's all about this game. There isn't much to talk about. It's just your generic TD game, and it was old but gold to an extent, right? That being said, let's move on to the next game, which I personally really liked. 2022, we have Bloodlines. Now, as a disclaimer, this game does cost Robux, like around 100, which isn't a lot, but I think it's totally worth it. Now, Bloodlines is an open world Naruto game with honestly a lot of features in my opinion, and even though it's dead, the game still has like 40 loyal players. Like you'll see them on consistently, and you know, I've heard that it's gonna have an update soon, so that's pretty good. That being said, one person was really nice enough to explain to me how the game works. So pretty much you have to get these chakra fragments around the map to unlock your jutsus, and you know, there's like these resting points that you need to destroy along with those, and from there you can unlock moves in your clan. Now that might sound complicated, but let me put it this way: you just need to kill something and then kill another thing and then get your jutsus. It's that simple, right? And to be fair guys, I did not feel like doing all that because whenever I did, I would like actually end up dying to one of the bosses in the game. I'm assuming that the bosses were hard to deal with. Regardless, I asked this guy to PvP me to show me his moves, and that's when I realized that this game is low-key like a sleeper. Like the skin's features are honestly pretty high quality, especially for, you know, Roblox games, right? And combine that with the smooth PvP, this game is a banger. I mean seriously, the moves are solid, the PvP is balanced for the most part, and on top of that, the game is getting a huge update soon, so be sure to check that out. I'll most likely be actually playing this in the future, and I gotta keep this short, so just check this out if you have a free 100 Robux lying around. You might like the game's combat and overall aesthetic. Anyways, that being said, let's move on to 2023, which honestly was my top 3 favorite games on this list because of how enjoyable it was. Alright, 2023. This year was famous for battleground games getting popular, and of course someone had to make a game, so enter Chakra Battlegrounds. Now battleground games, I can't lie, I believe they're like utterly brain dead because it's just a base play with a bunch of moves. So as the average battlegrounds player, all I did was go learn the combat directly. I don't know if I'm the GOAT, but I can't lie, I was killing everybody who was fighting me. This was the first time I enjoyed playing a battlegrounds game in my life. The only experience or exposure I had was a little bit of jujutsu shenanigans with my friends when it first came out, because when this game was out and when, you know, the strongest battlegrounds were, you know, in its peak, I sold my life to Deepwoken. Like I went to school, I would think about Deepwoken in school, I would come home and play Deepwoken, and then I'd go to sleep having dreams of Deepwoken. Like it was not a joke, it was like an obsession. Back to this game though, I learned that most battleground games have a very set way to attack, so you want to use one thing after another to get the maximum damage, right? Anyways, let's move on to 2024, which I'm not gonna lie, I personally did not like. Alright, 2024, Shinobi Lineage. Now the only reason I included this game on the list is for me to shit talk it, because not only does this game have horrible updates, this game genuinely sucked. Now for some backstory, Shinobi Lineage is supposed to be a permadeath Naruto game heavily based on Rogue Lineage, hence the name, which was made by Vows of the Sea. They also made Deepwoken, but not only was this executed horribly, I remember when this game came out, it had like 40,000 CCU, but now it's at 0, so just take a look. I mean, this game sucks. So that being said, you know, let's move on to 2025, aka this year, which I know you guys were waiting for. Alright, 2025, I'm not gonna lie, this year has been hella dry. We're in the summer, mainly because a lot of developers realize players like quality over some bullshit like a lot of clan rerolls, so huge thanks to the developers who influenced this, aka Holy War X, Rel Cease. But anyways, let's get right into it. Now this year will actually include 3 games, 1 that is released and 2 that are going to be released. So first off, let's talk about the game Naruto Ninja Time. This game, you know, it's a simple RPG, you do stuff to level up, get abilities. This game looked very nice. Also the GUI for this game was honestly so good. Like I can't lie, this has to be the best GUI I've ever seen, like ever on Roblox, right? And you know, it might be because I'm like an iPad kid who needs like micro interactions, but this GUI, again, it was seriously well made. This game, that aside, is really good in my opinion. The world world building is really nice. The GFX, VFX is also really good, except for the animations, where I can't lie, this was my first issue and also my last issue because they're not on par with how good the game looks. Like the models are insane, and then on the other hand, you have like these slow rock bricks that are like falling to the floor. I think it is a good game to check out every now and then. So that being said, let's move on to our 2 unreleased games which you guys might have heard about or might have not. Alright, for our first unreleased game, we have Kaizen 2. Now, I know for sure you guys have heard about this game because a lot of YouTubers have been hyping it up, and it is currently in closed community. And I believe, honestly, this game looks great. The best way I can put it is that the animations really look like Deep Oaken level, meaning that this game's smooth design meets like proper interactability, if that makes any sense. To paint you a picture, let me put it this way. A lot of games right now that I've seen personally like having fast combat, but they also want it to be cinematic. And a lot of people have to realize that stuff does not go hand in hand. Like it takes like a different type of skill to perfect that. And it also goes the other way around, right? Sometimes they want it super slow, but they want it to be, you know, less cinematic and more interactable. But that aside, I don't think Kaizen is between any of these, and it looks really smooth, and this should be how Roblox PvP should be. Anyways, that being said, I haven't played this game personally, but you know, I would really appreciate a spot in closed community, you know what I'm saying? So I could make a video on it. Aside from that, I truly believe the VFX for this game looks very good, and the tail beast transformations are honestly the best, and yes, you heard that right, the best on the platform. Like it's honestly insane. TLDR, I know you guys have heard a lot about this game in the past like months or so. I think this game has a lot of smooth animations, it has very good world building with a very realistic texture, style, and elegant VFX. So that being said, I think Kaizen 2 is genuinely a great game, and honestly it might be even top 3 unreleased at the moment, on par with Holy War X and Rel C's. Let's move on to the last pick of the video, which guys, I'm not gonna lie, might be a sleeper, so let's talk about it. Alright, for the last game on this list, we have Naruto Revival Online. Starting off with the world building and overall aesthetic on this game, I felt like it looked really smooth and honestly better than Kaizen 2 in some aspects, because sure, Kaizen 2 is a little bit more detailed, but I feel like it gives much more of a serious feel for a game that's not even permadeath, right? Another thing that I found really good about this game is how smooth everything is and how well everything goes together. Like for example, the last game we played, no joke, everything felt so like good except for the animations of the moves, and I could understand why people stopped playing it. Like stuff was genuinely slow. Anyways, lastly, the only thing that we have left to talk about is the game's awakenings, and in this case we saw Susanoo Awakening, and I really liked the design and I felt like it was really elegant and noisy, so for me it's a 10 out of 10. That being said, for both of these unreleased games, we have no idea on progression, but I am personally pretty stoked to see what these developers cook up, especially given the current situation for Roblox anime games. Anyways guys, that's all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me play and review Naruto games like throughout the year, so you know, subscribe, also join the Discord. Peace.